All right, what's up, everyone? How's everyone's Thursday going? Mine is terrific. All things going well with the Knicks, and all the things I care about the most. Aaron Judge has been pretty good. That's been pretty nice. Watch him on a nightly basis. That's been pretty cool. But my main focus is still on the Knicks, and I kind of planned on pivoting off of them when the Knicks season was over and starting to talk more Yankees. And, I do talk Giants every week on One Giant Step, wherever you get your podcast with Sean Morash and myself. But I planned on pivoting away from the Knicks, discussing the Yankees a little bit more. That season is obviously, just over 1/3 of the way through. Exciting times, not exciting times, whatever you want to believe. I really haven't been talking about it much because, again, my focus has been on the Knicks because of what I believe to be an extremely chaotic process when it comes to the due diligence of trying to find a new head coach. And it's something that concerns me, and it's something that I can't sit idly by and not discuss. I'm concerned because, and there's a lot of discourse obviously out there from the majority of Knicks Twitter that is trying to spin this, the Knicks getting denied by every franchise in the NBA, it feels like at this point, to interview their successful head coaches as a win. They're going out there and saying, this is the Knicks doing their due diligence. This is Leon Rose. This is his plan. This is Leon Rose's plan. When in reality, I think that they're severely misguided. I think there are people out there who think they know stuff, who believe reports that, if you put the pieces together, aren't true. And I believe, again, that people are misinformed. And it's not my job to come out here and try to correct everyone and to tell everyone that they're wrong. I'm just stating how I feel about this. I don't want to go out there, become someone's enemy. I'm not trying to fight anyone. You're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want, whatever helps you sleep better at night. But I find it very difficult to look at this as a positive. And again, listen, I'm not sitting here and telling you that everyone out there is an idiot. They have no idea what they're talking about. I just think that they're a little misguided and misinformed. There are so many signs that point to this being an unmitigated disaster for the Knicks. I think it was clear by a multitude of reports out there that the Knicks were extremely interested in bringing in Jason Kidd and obviously going to the Mavericks and asking for their permission to interview him. And you heard that there was mutual interest. I think that was all true. I believe that was their guy. And the Knicks went out there and they asked for permission to interview Chris Finch. They asked to interview Ime Udoka. And they both got turned down. They turned down, both of them turned down the Knicks, the Rockets and the Timberwolves. So that was a bad look. And I think the Mavericks looked at that and said, you know what? Jason Kidd might be upset with how we handled the whole Luka trade. Yeah, he may not have liked Luka. But with his anger directed towards Nico Harrison and Patrick DeMont, that was well chronicled, they did not believe that even with the supposed discord between Jason Kidd and between the owner and the GM of the Mavericks, that they'd still deny the Knicks' request because they looked at it as, really, you think the Knicks are going to come in here, steal our coach that just brought us to the finals the year before? Get out of here. I think that there's a league-wide sentiment now that is extremely negative for the Knicks. And no matter what you want to say, no matter how you want to spin this, and again, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe based off reports that you see and yada, yada, yada. There is a growing sentiment around the league that this is not a good look for the Knicks. That them getting denied by all these things. When was the last time you saw this? When was the last time you saw a coaching search go out there and try to poach coaches from successful teams? You haven't seen it. You have not seen it. So I believe that this is an extreme negative. That, it's, again, you could look at it two different ways. You could look at it as the Knicks doing their due diligence And you also could look at it as the Knicks being idiots and having no plan. That's fine. It's not a good look for the Knicks either way. Again, you could think it's good for the Knicks. You could think it's good for their plan, but it only has negative effects. They, in their right minds, could not think that Ime Udoka or Chris Finch would ever be allowed to interview with the Knicks, even if there was a semblance of interest for either one of them to come to the Knicks. The Knicks' talent, the big market, the potential to be a legend in the city of New York if you win there. Those are all appealing, but they all have good situations where they are. They're beloved by the fan base. They're beloved by the players they have a close relationship with. They're good coaches. The Knicks, not only are the fans misguided, but the Knicks are misguided as well. Because I think that there's this growing sentiment within the Knicks organization that believes that their situation is so desirable that they could go out there and get whomever they want. If they did not believe that they could have gotten at least one of those coaches out there, then they wouldn't have done this. But clearly this is their plan. Their lack of plan was this. It mounted in this, thrown together, not thought through plan of going out there and trying to poach coaches from the rest of the league, which is just stupid in hindsight. But the Knicks did it. They have the support of the fans. The fans believe that Leon Rose is the one behind this coaching search. I think with what we saw with Leon Rose when he was actually behind the coaching search in 2020 is not what we're seeing right now. Because Leon Rose did not do this. And I understand the Knicks were in a different position back then. I don't think that much has changed, though, with the Knicks being a desirable head coaching spot. They almost got Steve Kerr back in 2014. They almost did. They ended up pivoting to Derek Fisher, which is one of the stupidest moves the franchise has ever made, but I digress. This job has been a desirable job, no matter how bad the team is. I mean, maybe there are people out there that didn't want to work with Phil Jackson, that didn't want to work with Steve Mills, but at the end of the day, it wasn't one of those jobs where people were looking at it like, you definitely can't go there. Don't go there, or it's going to be this. It was never that. So you look back to 2020, I think that that's the excuse that a lot of fans will make to justify what's going on right now. Oh, but in 2020, they needed to do a thorough coaching search because no one wanted to coach. They got Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau, one of the most successful head coaches, and I understand he had a close relationship with Leon Rose. I understand that was his dream job. Look at all the coaches they interviewed. Did they go out to try to interview the majority of the successful coaches in the NBA? That's kind of hyperbole for me. That I understand they didn't interview the majority of successful head coaches in the NBA, but they tried to poach 5 at this point. And I don't think that that's done. So, again, I'm not telling you that you have to believe a certain report or a certain, I don't know, feel. I just, you could do whatever you want. You could think however you want to think. I'm not here to try to convince you. I'm just here to share my 2 cents. And let me just say this. Let me preface this. I've been bashing James Dolan left and right. He made the right decision firing Tom Thibodeau. He made the right decision. I never thought that Tom Thibodeau would help the Knicks get to where they wanted to get. And I understand they made it to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And he deserves to be commended for getting there. But it didn't change the fact that some of the Knicks' best players did not like playing for Tom Thibodeau. That thought that he was they thought he was extremely rich, and thought that his lack of adjustments hampered this Knicks team from getting to where they wanted to get, which is an NBA championship. And there's a very short window here with the new CBA. These teams don't have years and years and years to try to get to the finals and win it. The Knicks have 3 more years with how long these guys are under contract for. So it's now or never. James Dolan made the right move. He made the right move. Leon Rose never would have done that on his own. You still hear reports from Ian Begley, and I'm not trying to discredit Ian Begley. He's one of the best Knicks reporters out there. I just don't buy what he's putting out there. I just don't buy that Leon Rose was the driving force behind this. And you could say if Leon Rose was forced into this decision that he would have resigned. Why would he resign from being the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks? No matter how little power he'd have. It's one of the most desirable jobs in all of sports. He doesn't talk to the media. He controls the narrative because he barely speaks. He never speaks. So it's like he can control the narrative. He could control the opinion surrounding him. So why the hell would he ever want to leave it? And it's not like he has all these clients to fall back on. Yeah, his son might. He's been out of the agency world, the agenting world, whatever the hell the phrase would be, for 5+ years. It's not like he could jump right back into it. And maybe he'd want to resign and go spend his years in Margate, spend his summers in. I don't know. But I like the sentiment, the idea that Leon Rose would have resigned if he was forced to fire Leon Rose is unsubstantiated. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Especially if the players were actually pissed about Tom Thibodeau. Instead, it just looks bad for him. He's the one who brought these players in. You know, the current state of the NBA is that star players have as much power as they've ever had. Not the B-list stars, but the A-list stars. And the guys that you pay a lot of money to. Like the second you provide value to a guy by giving him a massive contract, you give that guy power. And multiple players combined can outweigh the power of one. And what I believe is that Jalen Brunson wanted Tom Thibodeau back. Like, you could tell based off, and I this is a point I've harped on a multitude of times here, that Tom Thibodeau allowed Jalen Brunson the autonomy to do whatever he wanted on the offensive end. It was take the ball. We're going to continue to try to create for you, continue to unsuccessfully draw mismatches for you, set 5 screens, allow someone else to take the ball up, and set 15 screens, 15 off-ball screens so we can get you the ball and run the offense through you for 7 straight minutes. What player in their own mind would not want that? So that's why I don't believe that Jalen Brunson wanted this. And that's why I think that it had to have been a Karl Anthony Towns directive. It had to have been a Mikal Bridges, an OG Anunoby directive. That, hey, Tom Thibodeau is not the right coach for this organization. So I commend James Dolan for making that tough decision. I was never a Tom Thibodeau fan. I thought he deserved to be fired. I never believed that it would actually happen because I underestimated how willing James Dolan would be to get his hands, to sink his hands into this. And this is exactly where we are. And again, I'm not here to shit talk James Dolan. I'm not. I believe that this is all Dolan. You know, that's just why it seems so chaotic. It seems, you know, and the talking heads I never agree with. But Stephen A. and Charles Barkley are dead on about this. It's been a very long time since Charles Barkley was right about the Knicks. And maybe this is Knicks for clicks. Maybe he's trying to stir the pot like a lot of other national media members do. This is how this is going right now. This is not just a sentiment shared by national talking heads. It's a sentiment shared by the rest of the league who feel disrespected by the Knicks' actions here. I don't know what the hell just happened up there. But, like, realistically, you think these teams are going to look kindly on that? Like, if the Knicks want to make a deal with said teams, you think they're gonna try to help the Knicks? This is going to be a Brooklyn Nets situation all over again, in which they get as much value out of a player that doesn't deserve the value because the Knicks have no other choice but to trade for that guy. They had to give up an exorbitant amount of value and picks to get Mikal Bridges because the Knicks and the Nets don't trade. There was like this unspoken beef between the two franchises. And that shouldn't shock you or surprise you. They play right across the river, right across the East River. this is going to become the norm with the rest of the franchises in the NBA, especially the ones that the Knicks asked to interview their successful head coaches. It's not a good look. It's not. No matter how you want to spin it. And I look at all the moves that Leon Rose has made, besides the Evan Fournier signing, besides the trade for Mikal Bridges. And those moves have helped build trust in what Leon Rose has done. And they've helped build this reputation that he is one of the most competent executives in the NBA. So if you believe that sentiment, if you believe all that, how could, in your right mind, you could look at this situation and tell me that Leon Rose is behind it? This does not scream Leon Rose at all, because it seems chaotic. And again, you're entitled to believe that the Knicks are doing their due diligence, that they wanted to go out there and see what's up. It couldn't hurt to ask. It could not hurt to ask. The Knicks never had a plan. If Leon Rose is the one behind firing Tom Thibodeau, you'd think that they'd have interviewed some candidates that would actually want to come to the Knicks. That actually could come to the Knicks. A few reputable assistant coaches, Johnny Bryant being one of them, Sam Cassell being another. Another, Micah Nori of the Timberwolves. We have him on NBA radio. He's great. Really good guy. Really smart, potential future head coach. He'll get a job. But Leon Rose seems like, based off all the moves that he's made, as a guy who's willing to think outside the box. Now we hear that Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins are supposedly the favorites for the Knick role. Does that scream Leon Rose? Is that out of the box? No, it's not. It's someone within the organization that has the power to go out and do this, wanting someone with a good track record, but also someone that was fired from an organization that maybe he shouldn't have been fired from, but was fired in the first place, and recently. And I can't think of the last time that a coach that was fired from, I'd say, a competent organization. The Kings, obviously, not a competent organization. I don't think the Grizzlies have done enough to build around John Morant. That's another story for another day. I think that there are, two sides of the same token. I just can't remember the last time that a coach was fired, brought in by maybe Frank Vogel with the Lakers in 2020. That team also employed LeBron James. But I cannot think of the last time a team has done that. Brought in a coach that was recently fired in the last 6-7 months, where that coach had success. Didn't work with Doc Rivers in Milwaukee. Is that really shocking? No. So I look at what has happened over the course of recent modern NBA history. I look at what happened with Steve Kerr. I look at what happened with Joe Mazzulla. I look at what happened with the Cavs and Tyronn Lue. And I see all those teams had success after being successful prior by hiring, I wouldn't say necessarily unproven assistant coaches, but head coaches without a real resume. Steve Kerr was only an executive. He was never an assistant coach. So they brought in an assistant coach, or they brought in a guy who was, doing TV on TNT to coach their team. What do? They won 3 championships in 4 years. That's what the Warriors did. They thought outside the box. So with the reputation that Leon Rose has built as an executive who thinks outside the box, that has made most of the right moves, then why in your right mind would you believe this is a Leon Rose directive? It's beyond me. It really is. And I think that opinion is not, I think people aren't coming to that conclusion because they're blinded by the idea of this due diligence. Like, really believing the fact that Leon Rose is reaching out to all these teams. You know, it's like going to a bar and shooting your shot at every girl at the bar. Like, one of them's going to say yes. It's a terrible analogy. I've seen that put out there. It's a terrible analogy. Are all those girls a part of the same friend group? Do all of them talk constantly? Are you going to piss off the 25 other ones that you didn't ask out? Yes. Because they're going to look at you and say, this guy is crazy. And that's the situation right now. By the Knicks doing this, no matter what you believe about the plan behind Leon Rose's genius, this is not a good look for the Knicks. And going forward, this is not going to help them with trade talks, with whatever. The Knicks are losing respect by the day. And not just amongst the talking heads of the media, the Stephen A. Smiths, the Charles Barkleys. They're losing respect from the other teams in this league. It's not a good look. It's not a good look. No matter what you believe, it's not. And that is where this concern comes from. Because again, you could believe whatever you want to believe. The who and the how are not important. I keep getting into this. It's the why it's happening. And the why it's happening is pissing off other teams in the NBA. The why is that the Knicks believe that they could realistically get these guys. That's the why. And other teams are looking at that and saying, F out of here. That's why the Knicks didn't get Jason Kidd when they believed they can get him. Because the Mavs looked at what else the Knicks were doing and said, you know what? Are we really going to be the ones to play into this? No. Absolutely not. So, again, that's my thought process on this. You're entitled to believe whatever the hell you want to believe. I'm not stopping you. I believe that that James Dolan made the right decision by firing Tom Thibodeau. I just wish he was a little less involved with this whole situation. Like, yeah, sign off on the eventual head coach. Like, you're the owner. You have the right to do that. No one's going to hate you for that. But I feel like it's getting lost on people what's actually happening here. They're blinded by the fact that this is a master plan by Leon Rose to do due diligence. And there's nothing to really prove that Leon Rose is not the one behind it, besides trying to connect the dots and coming to your own conclusions, which is exactly what I'm doing. You know, it's very easy to get lost in, you know, the Twitter, the Knicks Twitter sphere, hearing all these accounts, seeing what they're all putting out. You know, the people that I'm friendly with that are putting out stuff that I don't necessarily believe. And again, you're entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. And it's very easy to fall victim to shared mindsets. Just because a million people think it on Twitter doesn't mean it's true. Come up with your own opinions. Put the dots together. See what's actually going on here. That's what I believe I'm doing. And I mean no disrespect to the Knicks owner, James Dolan. I think he's done a great job letting the front office do their work. But it does not feel to me that this is similar to any move the Knicks have made in the past. They look incompetent. They look stupid. And that is my major concern behind all this. All right. That's going to do it for today's live stream. I'm kind of scared with putting out this stuff. I mean, I say no disrespect to James Dolan. Again, I commend him for firing Tom Thibodeau. I commend him for what he's done. And staying out of the limelight and letting the front office do their jobs. I just don't know if that's what's going on anymore. I don't know. Just telling you my opinion. feel very strongly about my opinion. And a lot of people that I know that are connected believe this too. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I don't know when the hell this is going to end, so I'm sure you'll get a lot more content from me about this situation. Thanks, everyone. Peace.